Okay, my beloved, let's talk about triggers. Oh my God. So in our Soulmatic Renewal work, triggers are really important. They're not the bad guy per se, but a trigger is, I would define it as an over-the-top emotional response to a situation, okay? So that could be a comment on Facebook that makes you blow your lid, or it could be somebody else making a comment or pointing something out that makes you just lose it emotionally. And when we have that over-the-top emotional response, what I will tell you is that emotional response really has nothing to do with whatever triggered that response. That's old energy. That's been stuck in you for a really long time. In our Soulmatic Renewal work, we use that as fodder to help us get deeper and deeper and down into that and release it once and for all. We use that for our deeper healing work. But that being said, when you're triggered, I want to talk about a specific, like a grown-up way to deal with triggers. So out in the world, we're going to get triggered. It's going to happen. And sometimes even grown-ups lose it and react to that trigger in a really strong way and let the wave take them, kind of let the current take them out into the ocean for a little while. And we can just spin around and tell our stories and blame other people and just get all riled up in our emotions. But the truth is, honey, you're a grown-up, and it's really important that when you get triggered, when you lose it, when you get really reactive, you've got to recognize that at some point, and it's so important to come back and, as they say in recovery, clean up your side of the street, okay? If you lose it, you're human. If you lose it with your partner, with a family member, with a friend, even with a stranger on Facebook, it's still important. It is your responsibility once the waters have receded a bit and it's starting to dawn on you that maybe you overreacted, and we all do it when we're triggered. We overreact. When you overreact, it is your responsibility to go and make that right as best you can with the person who was the target for your trigger. If there was someone that you just hurled that out onto. Even if what they said or did is legitimately not okay, if they crossed a boundary, remember, a trigger is an over-the-top emotional response. If you overreacted, even if there was a boundary crossing, it's still your responsibility to show up and apologize and make that right as best you can and have that conversation. And I challenge you to even do this when you blow up on a stranger, when there's no sort of moral or societal reason to go try and make that right. Let go of your story enough to show up and say, you know what, I was triggered. Even if you have to have a further conversation about what was not okay about that situation or that behavior, if there was a boundary crossing, you still have a responsibility to be a responsible adult, responsible with your emotions, and show up and apologize and try and make that right. My 15-year-old son, he has testosterone poisoning, okay? Poisoning. He gets really upset and can really blow up. And he is doing his best to learn how to manage that and bring that under control. But even my 15-year-old son, when he loses it, and he does, and who's the safest place to lose that on? Oh yes, that's mama right here. When he does, he consistently comes back around and says, Mom, I'm sorry, I lost it, I was out of line, I apologize. And then he continues to try and do better. And it's really hard for him because he has hormones raging through his body that make him just really feel aggro and aggressive because he's a teenage boy. So if my 15-year-old who's suffering from severe testosterone poisoning can show up and clean up his side of the street and make it right, you can too. And I encourage you to just go ahead and let yourself have that, okay? Your ego will not die. I love you to death. Good luck out there.